Hello and welcome to Health Practitioner Business Success. Good morning in the world, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I know people watch this from different places. My special guest today is the wonderful, inspiring Jason T. Smith. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much.
So tell us where you are today for people that aren't familiar with you yet.
I am on a random sunny day in Melbourne.
A random sunny day.
Which is fantastic. We have a few more sunny days at this time of the year, but I'm pleased that we've at least got this one.
Yeah, it can be pretty unpredictable down there, right?
We love it. We love it. It's part of the adventure. You know, as the saying goes, if you don't like the weather in Melbourne, wait a minute, it'll change.
Yes, I get that too. I'm from England, so you know what, the weather isn't too different from Melbourne for sure. So yes, welcome everyone to the show. This is an inspiring show, I can tell you. So let me just give a little bit of background, Jason. I'm going to let you fill the rest in. So back in 1999, almost 20 years ago, right? As a young fledgling physiotherapist, you set your practice up in your own house, basically, with your wife. Were your wife back then?
Yes. She was my wife back then.
Yeah. So you set this practice up, like most people do. They don't kind of go straight into clinic land. They set a little practice up in their own space, and with the intention of helping people. You know, they don't have great big plans, great big ambitions at that stage. So tell us about what was going through your mind when you were starting that practice way back then.
Well, I was an accidental business owner, a very reluctant success, to be honest. We were a year married, and I'd promised my wife, as a graduate physio, I would never want to run my own practice or bring the stress of a small business into our family.
Sure.
My wife's an intensive care nurse, and the two of us had dreamed for a long time about working cross-culturally in the developing world, and we had spent a lot of time traveling through there and working on a short-term basis in that context.
Sure. Yeah.
But here I was stuck in Melbourne, and needed to make a few ends meet, and was very disillusioned in my first couple of years as an employee for other people.
Okay.
And thought, well, I'll just for a short season treat a few friends and family from the garage at home. There was no business plan or ambition to run this business for very long. But within 3 months, the force of the wave of enthusiasm that gathered around me changed my mind. Awesome. And we were off the way.
That's awesome, because that's just where a lot of folks stop. But, you know, you weren't happy with that for some reason, right?
I was very unhappy. In fact, I describe it as my quarter-life crisis. So I was 25. I'd only been a physio graduate for a few years. At this point, I had moved out of the garage and into just a small local medical centre. I had 4 or 5 staff. We were about a $500,000 practice in terms of revenue. Yeah. And 20 years ago, that was substantial, actually.
Pretty good.
I remember getting a phone call from our peak body and saying, "Congratulations, you're one of the largest practices in the country." Except that I hated it. I was stressed out. I was working 6 days a week. I was earning very little. My staff were being paid more than I was. You know, you get this notion that working for yourself is wonderful, except that really I worked for 100 patients every week. They were the boss, and I had to turn up when they wanted to be seen, and it was like a prison without bars. And most importantly, I wasn't making a difference in the developing world, which is where my heart was. And so I did what any sane person would do, Karen. I ran away. I gave the keys of my practice to a Kiwi who had flown over and taken a job. And I bought a combi van. I shaved my head, put my wife in the car, and we drove around Australia and tried to rediscover ourselves. And this is all at 25. So this is my quarter-life crisis.
Wow. So where did you go? Just around Australia?
Yeah, we did the coastal trip around up the east coast and up to the top end, and it was there that I had a very defining moment and had a bit of a wrestle with myself and God, and kind of complained about the world and thought, gee, this is a dead end kind of occupation. Healthcare is so reactive. Nobody's doing it right. and kind of got challenged in the moment that if I went back home and intentionally learned the business of physiotherapy and built a scaled ethical model, I could put an economic engine on the back of our philanthropic intentions. And instead of just going overseas myself, maybe we could send 10 or 100 people and transform communities. So my wife took the bait, and we came home after about 3 months of that little escape, that little sabbatical.
Sure.
At 26 years of age, we put every cent we had into developing our first prototype purpose-built practice. And today we have about 110 of them around Australia and New Zealand. So it's taken us nearly 20 years to do that, but it's been a great adventure.
So what lessons, Jason, have you learned from all that? What's reflecting back on that experience of being traveling for 3 months, thinking, my goodness, I don't want to go back there. That's not my calling. And then having this great big, because I know you're an out of the box thinker. I'm going to talk quickly about that before we leave the show today, because that's super important. I think the story that you shared with me the other day, out of the box thinking gets you places where normally you want to give up, right? So reflecting back on that, what do you take from that learning? What kind of?
Well, I got more things wrong than I got things right. So there's lots to learn, absolutely lots. And it's this idea of falling forwards, actually, that I like.
Yeah.
In fact, as a physio who understands the mechanics of gait, when you think about it, walking is just falling forwards. You move your center of gravity forwards, you lose your balance. Unfortunately, we put a foot in front and we take the step, and that becomes the beginning of a journey. And I think I just made so many mistakes in those early years, blew up a lot of money, blew up a lot of relationships, actually, just under the strain of it all. And even today, these things don't go away. It's always a crucial balance of trying to lead and manage those precious resources of people and time and money well. But I think the biggest lesson for me, and there's hundreds that I could choose from, but maybe the most crucial lesson is getting clarity around your convictions. And I think the reason I oscillated and had a few false starts in the early years of my small practice was because A, I didn't want to do it. B, I didn't know my why. And certainly I had very little clarity about how. And so when the troubles hit, and they're inevitable, the waves will come, I just felt like walking away and giving up rather than having a conviction to steer me. So vision's helpful, but conviction's far more powerful. And a conviction is that idea. Yeah, conviction is that idea that you must do this. It's in your purpose. It's in your DNA. You are compelled. Whereas a vision is just a great idea, and maybe you will and maybe you won't.
Yes. So what kept you going through that time? What kept you? I know you're a religious man. You are a Christian, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Is that the thing that kept you going, or was there something else?
It sounds cliche, but and religion has a lot of negative connotations, so it's a bit glib to kind of just say that. But actually, for me, it was that very clear sense of calling. So I have a strong faith. I do believe in purpose. I do think that God has an intention for my and everybody else's life, for that matter. And I just spent a lot of those darker years trying to press in and understand that more fully. Yeah. And once I got a handle on that, for me, it was far easier to overcome and press through the challenges. And I love that idea of the ocean. The ocean's full of waves, as in like a small physio practice or any other business in healthcare. Yes. It's full of waves, and you can either lament the waves or you can learn how to surf.
Great metaphor. Yeah, I like that.
And I just think it's much more fun, and in fact, it's what helps you take most of the situation when you can ride the waves. And so that sounds beautiful. Obviously, there's a lot of sleepless nights and painful experiences along the way when you get done.
For sure. I mean, it hasn't been unnoticed. Whenever entrepreneurs, do well, it's always a sense of it was an overnight success, isn't it? But the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into building something like what you've built, you can understand the roller coaster ride that you've probably been on, and how there's been times where you just wanted to say, you know what, I'm going to go back in that combi and go on the road for another 3 months. Forget this lock.
And that's normal. And your listeners who are maybe at the early stages of growing a practice, they should feel entirely normal about that. But that's what separates people in this race. Do they have the conviction to press through and endure? And the definition of success is just the last man standing, really.
Yes, that's a good point. Good point. So before we finish, I know we haven't got many minutes left, and time is precious. I know you're a busy, busy man. Tell me about this out-of-box thinking that took your business from 2006 when it started to grow, and you started to grow these practices around Australia, to 2017. So that period of growth was pretty huge for you in your business, right? But one crucial thing that you shared with me recently was this idea, out-of-box thinking of, will you tell the viewers about what that was?
So we had grown to about a network of 40 practices and maybe a $25 million client services portfolio. And it had taken us close on 15 years to do that. And then in 3 years, we effectively doubled our organisation by taking a very radical approach. And I call it outside in, downside up leadership. I've recently written a book that sort of tells this story. And it's this idea that really you want to overlead and undermanage. Overlead and undermanage. This is the core of what I've learned in this process. And we're, as clinicians, we think very tactically. We think, we're students of science and evidence-based, and we love structure. And I think all of that has a very important place in the role of healthcare. But when we think about engaging and empowering people, structure can suffocate the oxygen in the room. And it can limit people's freedom to take risks and make mistakes. And doing that, learn some new experiences. And so that was the story of those 3 years. We completely dismantled our very conventional organisational structure, and we turned ourselves outside in, downside up. We shook things around, and we came up with this imperative about inciting a leadership revolution amongst physiotherapists. And, we have 600 staff in our group, and nobody likes being told what to do. We would much rather have people thinking that they can own their responsibilities and with some peer accountability bring out the best in them. So that's the story of those 3 years. And, we experienced some pretty explosive growth.
It was stunning and a brave move, actually, because you could have gone very wrong. And and I think that's about you having already taken risks previously and thought, well, what's the worst that's going to happen here, kind of thing. It's a calculated risk, isn't it, in terms of moving your business forward versus, status quo of keeping it how it is. Like, how can we do it?
You have to take risks. Fortune favours the brave. And if you stay safe, it's a very beige, vanilla existence. And we're in a healthcare professional. Everyone that you're reaching with these video logs and webcasts, they're all we've been institutionalized from a very conservative upbringing called medical, mainstream medical, and I think we never want to ignore the science and the evidence, but we also need to mix that with some courage and some conviction and some risks, because we need a step change in the way we deliver healthcare in this country. Quite frankly, people are living longer, but they're not living better. So we need people to experience better health, more so possibly than any other time, at least in our lifetime.
Sure, absolutely. 1 minute left. Was there any backfire taking those titles away from people?
Oh, of course. They were the hardest 2 years of my working life, when I launched this ambitious agenda of doubling our group in 3 years, of detitling the organisation and dismantling our conventional hierarchical structure. Absolutely, there was challenge, there was pushback, but not to dismiss the great champions that arose from within as well, who saw the light and thought, yep, we can do this. But once again, if you only try to please people, then you won't make effective change. Leaders have to bring change. Otherwise, we're just a manager.
Absolutely. It's about managing that change well, the best possible way possible, isn't it? Oh, you know what? This has been a stunning, inspiring show, Jason. I really do thank you so much for coming on today and sparing the time to talk to our viewers and to inspire, like you say, people that are just on that verge of either they're starting a business or they're wanting to take it to that next level. And there's a lot of people there, but really weighed up the risks, the pros and cons of doing that, and how to do that, how to be inspired by that. So you have written a couple of books, you've written a lot of articles, and so where's the best place for people if they want to get involved in what you do, or they want to kind of get to know you a bit better? Where's the best place for them to contact you?
Yeah, look, I have a lot of fingers in different pies. I think the easiest way to track me down if people want to find me is jasontsmith.com.au, and all of my social profiles and all of the organisations I work in and for, and the books that I've written, they're all traceable through jasontsmith.com.au.
Sure. And just before we finish, what does the T stand for?
Oh, so many people ask me that. I'm proud to say it's Terence. My father's name is Terence, Jason Terence Smith.
Awesome. The all-important T. We mustn't forget that one. Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day, Jason. Thanks so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Bye.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a great show. Guys, if you haven't taken something from this show, I don't know what you've taken from anything, because Jason is full of knowledge. Remember, he started way back when, humble beginnings as a solopreneur. And he's very unwell with his wife, Paulina, as well. Of course, we can't forget that. Practicing it from his own place, building it into 7 practices, and then building it into a multimillion-dollar company. And you know what? It takes a lot of courage to do that. And you can see Jason is a pretty down-to-earth guy. It's not unachievable for other people to do, but it does take a lot of hard graft. I completely agree with that. So yes, if you want to get hold of Jason, I will be putting these details on the show notes afterwards. So yes, I'll be sharing this around too. So please add some comments below. Contact Jason if you want more information. All the best, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.